You are listening to the Garlic Fries and Baseball Guys podcast. Sam Lubman and Joe Shasky coming at you every week with all your best Giants content. Whether the Giants are good or bad, we will be here. Rain, sleet, shine. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, share. I said share already. There's a lot of things you got to do with this podcast. All part of the Odyssey Sports Network here at 95.7 The Game. So, Shasky, I'm glad you kind of talked about, you mentioned just kind of how you feel exhausted by all of this. And you don't know what to expect, because I want to use this segment to kind of point our finger at a group of people that I feel like we don't point our fingers at enough. Note how I said group, and that is the Giants ownership group. And we always talk about, why don't the Giants get the same coverage as, like, say, the Warriors or the Niners? And my question about the Giants ownership is, it's like, do they hold the Giants to a standard that fans would be proud of? So, for example, you look at Joe Lacob. You know what Joe Lacob wants the Warriors to do every year. He wants to win championships. And when Joe Lacob does not get a championship, he will do things to change that so that he can get a championship. Blow a 3-1 lead. All right, we're going to bring in Kevin Durant. Lose to the finals to Toronto. Okay, we're going to get D'Angelo Russell, flipping for Andrew Wiggins. Lose to the Lakers in the second round. All right, we're going to bring in Chris Paul. The standard is clear. Either win or heads will roll. Jed York, kind of the same thing. We all laughed at him when we said we only hang championship banners. Since then, though, that is the standard. The Niners, they want to hang championship banners. What is everything about this season? That quest for 6. Why are Niner fans so high-strung right now? Because Nick Bosa is a big part of that. Yeah. And it feels like that Nick Bosa is preventing the Niners from getting to that standard. Have you ever felt like the Giants ownership group, even when they were winning championships, back at the beginning of the last decade, did you ever feel like the Giants ownership group put even anywhere close to that kind of expectation level on the Giants?
No, it always felt like we're waiting our turn. Yeah. We're going to be fiscally responsible, and we're not going to trade any of our prospects, because down the road, that's when we're going to strike while the iron's hot. And I'm like, well, I've been waiting for this lasagna to be finished. and meanwhile, like, it's still cooking in the oven, and I don't even know if the lasagna tastes good. And look, the way I view things is like, give me a little piece of the lasagna. Let me sample it. All right, that's pretty good. I can live with that. But here's the part they don't understand. The lasagna is not going to be just right when you go to pull it out. You got to pull it out and then let it sit for a little while. And then it gets better. And you know when lasagna is even better? The next day and the day after that. Because that's what makes lasagna so delicious.
The sustainability.
Everything to be perfect. Like, dog, this is not Goldilocks. Swing big. What is the most bold thing that they've done?
No. And it's even just the front office. Here's the thing. I was talking to John Dickinson a couple weeks ago. He had a great line. The boldest move you make can't be the move you didn't make.
Exactly.
And that's kind of where the Giants are at. You can say the boldest move they didn't make was maybe, either not bringing back, it was probably not bringing back Carlos Rodon. That was probably the boldest move they made, and how well that's worked out for them. But, like, how many wins is that translating to in the standings? It's not. Okay, maybe it's not adding losses, but it's not adding wins either. And that just seems like the perpetual, like, it's almost like the ownership standard is just like, just don't suck.
Yes.
Whereas most owners, like, I want you to win. The Giants, it's just don't suck. And I swear, like, I talk to my friends all the time. I swear to God, Larry Bear, his number one goal every year is, I need you to be playing competitive games at the end of September. That's all I need. After that, everything else is gravy. And this year, you're going to get that. This is a Giants team that is going to be playing competitive games in September. There is a very good chance that when the Dodgers come here, that last weekend of the year, that, October 1st, the Giants could very well be playing for a playoff spot. And if you're in the part of that Giants ownership group, you can ignore the context around what you're doing to play for that playoff spot all you want. You can ignore the numbers. You can ignore how you got from A to B, because all that matters is you got to point B. And if you're an owner, you're okay with that. And if you're a fan of the Giants, that should absolutely disgust you. Like, the fans should not have higher expectations for success than the owners. And I feel like that's what Giants fans have.
No, that's a great point. And that kind of disgusts me when the way you say it like that. And I know it may not be that egregious, but God, really, that's where we're at?
Yeah, it's just we're okay with, a few marketable guys, an 84-win season. Well, hey, we had a cool moment. Remember that Yastrzemski walk-off home run, which, again, those are cool moments. But it was a really cool moment? That Travis Shikawa walk-off home run to clinch a pennant. You know what else is pretty cool? that time when Buster Posey caught strike 3 from Sergio Romo, blowing by a Triple Crown winner. That was pretty cool too. Maybe make that the expectation. Like
exactly.
Carlos Rodon, he went to New York because the fans boo you there if you're not bad, if you're not good enough. I mean, I don't know, what should Giants fans maybe adopt a more of a Yankee fan-ish kind of mentality? Do we want to see an ownership kind of take on that Steinbrenner, the George Steinbrenner mentality of, if you're not gonna, provide me a win right now, then I'm gonna find someone who will? Is that kind of what we should be wanting if we're the Giants?
I mean, I don't know why not. And you say, oh, you're not the Yankees, but like, we're also not the Diamondbacks.
Yeah,
and,
we're not the Guardians or the Twins.
Like Sam, you've been a Giants fan your whole life. I've never seen Giants fans more angry and simultaneously apathetic to the team.
No, and we've seen some really bad baseball too. Like this is probably the angriest I've seen this fan base since maybe 2008. And I think with good cause there, because in 2008, this team seemed incredibly lost.
Yes.
And you had no hitting. You had 2 pitchers who you were excited about, but you weren't, you needed to give them run support. So that was always kind of a bummer right there. But yeah, I mean, fans were incredibly angry. Fans wanted Bochy gone because they thought he was a veteran guy. They didn't think Sabean had any sort of clue on how to build out of the Bonds era. But then again, if you're Giants ownership, what you're saying is, well, things were bad back then. What happened 2 years later? And no, that is not the case here. Like, that's simply just not the case. Like, you can't say, well, it's been bad before and got better. Yes, in all honesty, it will get better at some point. But with the current thinking right now, it's just, the way the Giants operate right now, I just don't see it happening. It's almost like the way that Sabean, Evans, and Bochy won with this ownership group. I mean, I give Bill Newcomb a lot of credit too. He was the kind of the guy in charge back then. But it's almost like Giants ownership has become just as big of an obstacle as, the rest of Major League Baseball in terms of, because I just feel like when you have an apathetic ownership that isn't going to be super hardcore on trying to get you to win, then they're going to be okay with seasons like this. They're going to be okay with having starless teams because, we can find other ways to market things, because we're playing, competitive games here into the end of September. Like, when you set low benchmarks, it's very easy to attain those benchmarks and be like, well, we're hitting all of our benchmarks. We're hitting all of our goals. Things are hunky-dory. We're making lots of money. Look at Mission Rock. And like, that's great for you in your pocketbook, Larry, but that does nothing for me as a fan.
Yes,
and
I agree.
Me, like, when you talk about apathy, this is why I kind of still subscribe to the whole you should be able to win as you kind of rebuild thing. Because like, I want to go to the ballpark with at least the belief that I'm going to see a win. Like right now I have that, but like, you got to give fans more. You got to give fans more of a reason to care. And when you're saying stuff like, oh, the fans' light bulb just hasn't gone off, but we're still going to be playing competitive games. We're going to have a rainy day fun and spend money on Cody Bellinger. Like, we know you're full of it. Like, we've been watching this team for long enough to know that you are full of it. And it's just, I really have a hard time, unless someone is just incredibly smart and knows how to build baseball teams in a way that no one's ever seen before. I really have a hard time believing that the Giants could build a consistent winning baseball team with the current ownership group. Because ever since,
is this a desirable place for people who do have the capability to get things done?
I think so. I think there's right down the street, you got a guy in Joe Lacob who's shown like he's pretty much wrote the book.
Just the Giants brand in general. Is that a place where people would want to work?
I think so, because the Giants are still one of the premier franchises in baseball. No one has won more games in baseball history than the Giants.
Why are we settling for mediocrity?
I don't understand it either. No, I'm with you. I think the Giants could absolutely
run like we're the Rockies.
The Giants could absolutely operate like they're the Dodgers or the Yankees. Maybe there's a sense of just like, because again, we're West Coasters out here. We love kind of our West Coast easygoing vibe. We don't want to be high strung like those people on the East Coast. I get that, but like, let the fans act that way. This is why I say I would love like a Larry Ellison to own the Giants, just some psychopath nut job billionaire who's going to come in and just attach his entire self-worth to whether or not the team wins or not. Give me one of those. Like, I've been watching Winning Time on HBO Max, and like, again, for however accurate that show is, the way they portray Jerry Buss in that show is he's just like, I'm just here to win. I'm here to win at all costs. Like, that's what I want. If you're not going to win, then I'm going to find someone who will.
Well, I honestly don't want to win their way.
Yeah. If you want to win your way, you know what? If your way isn't working, you got to find a new way.
Here's the thing. If you want to win your way, then you better be smarter than everyone. And they're not. They're not the Tampa Bay Rays. They're just not.
No, they're not. Even the Rays, I think there's flaws in their plan. A month ago, I probably would have written a blank check for the Rays front office. Still might over this one, though.
You know what? The this year the Seattle Mariners had a struggling Julio Rodriguez, who was a phenom last year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he would have been allowed to struggle that much with the Giants and continue to play every day?
Well, I'm going to go off of our own young phenom and Marco Luciano, and no, probably not, based on what we saw.
What about Elly De La Cruz right now? And by the way, he had one of the greatest months ever, Julio Rodriguez, recently. What about Elly De La Cruz? He's a different player, not as good in his rookie year as Julio was, but he's been struggling this year. Ask Red fans. Do they want to sit down? No, but the Giants' way of doing things, they'd be like, well, we do have DeJong who can go out there and play shortstop and be slightly more comparable, slightly more competent than Elly De La Cruz. No, it's the long play. You got to take your bumps and bruises to cash in on the big upside reward. And they're unwilling to do that. They have been unwilling to lose games with young players. Meanwhile, I'm watching them lose games with mediocre veterans who stink.
Mm-hmm.
Jock is a 4th or 5th outfielder. Yaz is a 4th or 5th outfielder. Slater is a 4th or 5th outfielder. Yet you're shoving them down my throat like they're the greatest pitch hitting guy of all time in Austin Slater. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. And yeah, it's just like losing with Luis Matos would feel better than losing with Mike Yastrzemski. And this is where, again, I would put it on ownership. Like, you guys set the standard. This ownership group sets the standard. Put more pressure on this front office, or I mean, like Jed said it best, you don't replace owners. And it's just, and that's the most frustrating part. If ownership really is the problem, you're either waiting for a sell, which is probably not going to happen, or you're just going to wait for their own light bulb to go off. And they realize we need to do things differently. Say it's impossible all you want.
I want to stop you there.
Yeah.
This cannot be profitable for ownership. Like, at least the A's make this argument of like, well, we're not making any money, and so we got to taper down the payroll. Well, at least they bring up young players and they give them an opportunity to be an Estuary Ruiz who can steal 60 bags, right? The Giants never allow themselves to bottom out. And then they try to claim well, there's nobility in being competitive. No, that's called stupid money. And then you claim that you don't make enough money. I'd rather you just bite the bullet for 2 years and not spend a gosh darn dime than to watch Jock Peterson at $20 million a year fumble around with balls against the Ivy in Chicago. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
Mitch Haniger has 40 hits this year.
Yeah. No, it's just, the thing is, it's like
40.
There's a good point to be made there. Like, the nobility and competing thing makes sense when you have a guy to go up and at least care about. There's just no one in this. The reason we would be not okay, but at least we would be more tolerable of 71 seasons in the past is because at least we'd be able to see a Willie McCovey or a Jack Clark or a Will Clark or a Barry Bonds in the middle of that lineup. But I'm not going to go watch an 84-win team. Well, I mean, I'm going to go watch, but most fans aren't going to go watch an 84-win team when the star attraction of that lineup is Patrick Bailey. And that's no disrespect to Bailey, but that's just the reality of how fans consume this game. Maybe in a year or two from now, Bailey can be that guy, but that's going to be the next manager and general manager's problem at that point.